Simple tools in the hands of skilled craftsmen have helped to build the world we know today. A world of towering steel, of giant airplanes, fast-moving transportation, a world of mechanical wonders, products of fine craftsmanship whose origin lies in the proper use of simple hand tools. But to more fully appreciate these tools and their part in our world today, let's turn back the pages of history. 60 or 70,000 years ago, long before the beginning of civilization, our primitive ancestors lived in caves, and we today might also be living in caves, except for a certain event that took place within the gloomy depths of this long-forgotten cavern. Here, a certain Stone Age craftsman by the name of Primitive Pete stumbled upon a very good idea. He suddenly realized that by fastening a stick to a rock, like this, he could extend the length of his arm, like this, and thereby greatly increase the force of his blow, like this. Thus was born the world's first practical hand tool. Oh, did we say practical? Well, anyway, it was a good idea. In fact, it eventually led to the development of all the numerous sledges and hammers we have today. But more than that, out of Pete's Stone Age hammer came other tools, tools for every purpose. This ball-peen hammer, for example, is just a practical version of Primitive Pete's first crude invention. But like all tools, there's a right and wrong way to use it. There are still Primitive Petes among us today who would abuse this fine tool. And this would be the horrible result. Obviously, this hammer was never intended for crushing rocks. The ball-peen hammer was designed for many purposes. The peen end can be used for riveting. It's also used for shaping soft metal. When using the face, you can avoid damage when hitting a hard object simply by striking with a full face. Never strike the object with the edge. Of course, there are many other types of hammers, all based on the original Stone Age model. There's the brass or copper, the rawhide face, plastic tip, and the claw hammer, which is the most commonly used, or we should say most commonly misused. To use the claw hammer correctly, rest the head squarely on the nail. Give the nail a slight starting tap, then drive it in with steady blows. A long nail can be pulled part way with the natural leverage of the claw. Then a block of wood placed under the head will increase the leverage, making a stubborn nail easier to pull, with less strain on the handle. A hammer with a loose head can be plenty dangerous. Here's how Primitive Pete would tighten the head on his hammer, but that only damages the handle at both ends. Have you a little beauty like this in your home? A steel wedge is the right answer. Driven into the wood, the wedge spreads the handle to the tapered sides of the eye and holds it tight in both directions. Gripping the handle too close to the head reduces the force of the blow and sometimes makes it difficult to drive a nail in straight. Always grip the handle close to the end to increase the length of the lever arm and make each blow more accurate and effective. Never use a handle for a crowbar. That's going all the way back to Primitive Pete. Another familiar tool that takes an awful lot of abuse is the ordinary screwdriver. Our modern-day Primitive Pete often uses a screwdriver to pry open a stubborn window. Well, maybe he'll succeed in ruining the tool. This never would have happened if Pete had known more about the screwdriver. It's made up of three principal parts: handle, shank, and blade. Some screwdrivers have a full-length shank extending through the handle. But many household screwdrivers have a shorter shank, pinned to the handle in this fashion. This type will not stand a Primitive Pete treatment. The best rule is never hammer on any screwdriver. Many of us try to use one screwdriver for every size of screw head. Always choose a screwdriver with a blade equal in width to the length of the slot. Another thing, never attempt to turn a tight screw if there is too much play between the blade and the slot. A bad fit can cause serious trouble. It can ruin the screw slot or the blade. This looks like the work of Primitive Pete. Well, so it is. Fortunately, if the blade is not too badly chipped, it can be reground into serviceable shape. First, grind the tip straight and square with the shank. Then grind each face a little at a time, but never allow the blade to become hot. Excessive heat will draw the temper and the blade will become soft. Here are the front and side views of a properly ground screwdriver. Here's a little trick. If the faces of the blade are tapered in slightly, a short distance back of the tip, the screwdriver will stay down in the screw slot, even when a severe twisting force is exerted. Here is a special type screwdriver designed for heavy duty. The extra-large square shank will stand a wrench if added leverage is needed. Don't be a Primitive Pete and resort to the use of pliers. They're apt to chew up the shank. Pliers are made for other purposes. Here are some familiar types: combination, diagonal cutting, long round nose, and side cutting. These side cutting pliers are used chiefly for electrical work. To make an electrical connection, first cut the insulated wire to the required length. Then use the parts back of the joint to flatten the insulation, like this. Then grip the insulation with the cutting edges without biting into the solid wire and strip off the insulation. Now right here is where long round nose pliers come in handy. To make a neat loop to fit a terminal, first use the tip of your pliers to make a right angle bend. Then grip the wire farther up and turn the end into a loop.